This morning on our Greetings from the Garden State segment here on Jersey Magazine, Mike Ham, I understand we're talking moonshine.
High-end moonshine, Jim, which is not something that you normally think of when it comes to moonshine. But St. Luna Spirits, which is based out of Hoboken, they have a very interesting story, interesting background to kind of how they got to where they are. And most of the time, you're going to find them at high-end cocktail lounges and bars and different things like that.
So when you say high-end moonshine, I mean, it sounds intriguing. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had a couple nights where with some friends, maybe we buy one of the cheaper brands of moonshine, like an apple pie type thing, or one with all the cherries stuffed in it. There's one that comes in like an aluminum gas can, it looks like. And it winds up being something you just kind of pass around over the course of the night at the end of the night, and you don't really remember much the next day. This is a little bit different, just the kind of the way that it's packaged, the way that it's presented, the flavor profile that it has is just like a little bit more complex and interesting. And it's primarily for, either sipping with a big ice cube or for craft cocktails that you could find at some of the places that they're at. Like we recorded at Sirenetta in Hoboken, which is a high-end craft cocktail bar and restaurant. And so places like that is where they would have something like this behind the bar, which is also unique because I don't know, even most pubs, I feel like wouldn't really have even the lower end moonshines, behind the bar as like options for you to drink, because I don't know you even who would order that.
Talking about moonshine, all I can think of is the revenue man coming after us. I
Yeah.
did have, without going into a lot of detail, I did have one experience. I had a family member who spent some time down south in one of the
Yep.
Carolinas and came home with the real thing. And it
Sure.
was an interesting experience, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my dad is a Discovery Channel junkie, so he's watched Moonshiners, all the shows, but Moonshiners was one of our favorites. And just kind of knowing what that process is like, people doing it out in the woods, and in essence, that's kind of how St. Luna got started. David Sook, who is the founder of the company, was working at a company in New York selling baby blankets, and part of their, company was selling soaps for moms and babies in a bathtub together. And they had this guy out of Tennessee who was kind of their master chemist who would put all these products together, I guess. And at some company meeting or company virtual thing, it came out that he makes moonshine in his backyard, basically. So David was kind of having, he was, some like most entrepreneurs was kind of having that moment where he was a little bit disenchanted with his full-time job and just asked Scott to come down to Tennessee and try it. So he did. They went out in like, he landed, I think, in Nashville. He drove 2 hours out into the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, and they just distilled moonshine all day. Tried it, and he was like, "This is incredible." And then since then, they've kind of taken it to market and made it what it is today.
And interesting the way when you first described it, you talk about sipping it as opposed
Yeah,
to, maybe just throwing it back, what have you, which reminds me, I've been in Ireland a few times, and going to a pub in Ireland is so totally different from here in the United States. You'll
yeah.
sip through a beer, never mind any other kind of a stronger liquor, but you'll sip through it, and it's more of a social experience the entire evening at a pub than what
Yeah.
I think we do here traditionally in the United States.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think like, especially when you start talking about like high-end type drinks and it's like the experience that you have and trying to we tasted some over the course of the episode, which are normally some of my favorite episodes to do. And so like it was interesting to kind of see how it changed over the course of the episode. Like the first sip was kind of like I got like fruity tequila sort of notes, and then the next sip was more like almost even like a rum style. And the third sip hit me right in the back of the throat, and I started like choking on myself. And then he was like, "Oh, that's the rye." It's just like it's interesting, like the process that they use to make it, and how they basically it started, in a beer keg, like that's how he used to distill it in his backyard, and now taking it to a legit operation that they a couple that they found, and now doing it like at this level, I think is really interesting. But yeah, you're right. I mean, having something like that, especially like the way that they would kind of put the cocktails together. It's like it's an art really when it comes down to like the spirit itself. And then when you do take it to the next level as a cocktail, it's like everyone's creativity, from the distiller to the actual bartender, the mixologist, everything kind of comes together to something that makes it really cool.
And you can check all of that out on greetingsfromthegardenstate.com. High class moonshine. I like it, Mike Ham. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.